Welcome back to the In Good Company podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and here at this podcast, we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. And today, I am on site at one of my favorite places, not only in Webster, but in Rochester, New York. I'm at Jackson's Golf, and couldn't think of a better podcast to actually have on location than this one. Again, we'll get into the details of this place, but I'm joined by a couple of my good friends, Anthony and Mike, who haven't just talked about it, but they've actually put their money where their mouth is, and they launched this incredible business here in the new year in 2025. Cannot wait to dive into their story of entrepreneurship and everything that it means to actually pursue your dreams. Without further ado, I want to welcome to the podcast, Anthony and Mike. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Blair. I appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for welcoming me in to, what is this, bay number 1?
This is A2. Then we're going to have to put labels outside of the power.
It's not a chance. You screwed it up. That's okay. That's fantastic.
You'll get it next time.
So talk about Jackson's Golf. Neither of your names are Jackson. Your first or last names are not. Like, where does this come from? Whose crazy idea was this? Like, just give us a little bit of a rundown of the story of Jackson's Golf, kind of everything you guys have done that maybe brought you to this point.
I figured you were probably going to make me answer this one. Yeah, so Jackson was actually my dog. It's, one of those things that you kind of, he was like our first kid, right? So I promised him as a little puppy I was going to do something to honor him someday, and this was kind of what I ended up doing. I decided to name a business after him, which is probably not your typical way of honoring your dog, but that was my way of doing it. So
I love it, man.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking that same question. They're like, "Is this a franchise? Why are you naming this Jackson's Golf?" And it's my dog.
You're like, my dog was a heck of a golfer.
He was so much better than me, and I just, yeah.
And so, okay, so kind of go from there. So you kind of made this commitment to Jackson. Hey, we're going to start a business after you one day. It's kind of this beautiful story, obviously. Why Webster? Why kind of this partnership idea? How did you get involved with this, Mike? I would love to kind of hear how this all kind of culminated together.
Sure. Well, we both live in Webster. But for about the last 4 or so years, I would say, we've been talking about doing something similar to this. We actually had a separate idea that, we were in the process of building, then due to, certain life circumstances, you took over a separate business. I had my first child. We decided ultimately it wasn't the perfect time. Fast forward, 2 or so years thereafter, reconnected with this idea. Anthony's, as long as I'd known him, which is, I don't know, a long time, 10 plus years, he's always been a dreamer, right? And the dream doesn't die. Instead, it gets curated, it gets cultivated, and it gets better. And I think at this time around, we found a much better way of doing it with Jackson's Golf and the model that we've deployed. So, and Webster is just an awesome place for golf in general. It's kind of interconnected, it's
centralized, which is a great thing. We've been getting a lot of that feedback from people that it's 2 minutes, it's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes, and we're like, wait a minute, you're in Fairport. How is this 10 minutes from you? So it's pretty awesome that it's that centrally located and easily accessible for everybody.
Yeah, and Baytown Plaza in general, we've got several members that live like 5 minutes down the road. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good rule of thumb if you're a Rochester-based business that if there's a Wegmans with them like a 30-second then probably, they've probably done their research. So
yeah, sure.
Let's just jump on their coattails.
It's a great excuse. Hey, I'm going to Wegmans again.
Yeah, I just Wegmans took 3 hours this time. Don't know why. But
lines are long.
So you bring up a great point that I just think for those that are listening or watching, it's there are a lot of dreamers. And there's no offense to him calling you a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. I will watch Shark Tank and I'm like, dang it! Why did I not think of that or this or that? It's like there's so many dreamers out there, and I think that it takes a very, very, very special person or group of people to actually do the thing that you're dreaming about.
Right.
And what was that crux moment for you guys where you say something like, yeah, it takes years to cultivate and this and that, but it's like, was there one night where you're having a beer together and you're talking and you're like, aha, like we did it.
Well, only one night.
Well, was there
We
this?
had a standing Tuesday night meeting at Buffalo Wild Wings at 7 p.m. about 5 years straight. So, yeah, we really did. Yeah, I guess it was probably one of those nights over a couple beers that we were just like, you know what, this is the year we're actually gonna do it. I mean, there really wasn't an aha moment maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I had a couple too many beers. I don't know.
No, I think for me, maybe at least my aha moment was the PGA Show in Orlando last January. So about a year ago now. Just being there, being in the presence of what, 40, 50,000.
I think it was over 60 this.
Yeah, it's just golf fanatics and just seeing like the passion there. And we talk about being a dreamer and whatever. There's a lot of other dreamers who are in similar positions, putting, their dreams to work for them at that trade show. And it's like interfacing with those people, representing ourselves as like a nascent startup at the time, embedding myself in the industry that, for me, I'm not as much of a, golfer as Anthony is. But just seeing that all firsthand really was like, boom, this is something that, and talking about staying power, talking about building a community. I was pretty much bitten by the bug then and there.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing with that experience too was, we had been kind of developing our idea with this iteration of Jackson's Golf it was probably 2-3 months at the time before we had gone to the PGA Show, and we had really nailed down the way we wanted to do it. And going down there and speaking to however many hundreds of vendors and getting such incredibly positive feedback, every one of them, like there wasn't a single one that was like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like a good idea. And it's not that people haven't experienced or understood what an indoor golf facility is like in the past, because everybody knows kind of what that model looks like. But our specific model, the more we would explain it to people, they would, it almost felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but it almost felt like every time we would walk up to somebody, they were like, oh, here's another indoor sim bar.
Sort of.
And then like within 5 minutes, they were like, wait a minute, what are you guys doing? And then it was like, wow, you guys are going to really crush it. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. And for us to be in the company of that many people that were down there and to have such a unique idea that everybody thought was really good was a pretty rewarding experience in my eyes. I guess that if I had to pinpoint an aha moment, that probably would have been it.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, again, it sounds like you guys, whether you intended to or not, it's like you're getting kind of that focus group feedback of like, you guys are, okay, who do we want to create this business for? Now you're going to an event of an exact sample size of the type of people that you're trying to reach. And again, whether that was intentional or not, it's like you were able to get some of that feedback. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for someone that's listening that feels stuck in their dream? Or maybe they feel like, and again, you guys are still in the mud. Like, it's not like you guys are smooth sailing. We're out just, we're open in 7 locations and here we go. It's like, you just got started, man. You guys are pushing through. But what advice would you have for someone that maybe has this dream, they have this vision, they have some of the capital to really make the move, but they just feel stuck in indecision? What do you think is a good piece of advice for them?
I know what I would say.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
There's a likelihood that we'll say the same thing. I'll tee you off here. So in order to get started, you actually have to start. And that was a word of wisdom that I heard from a mentor of mine, on one of those calls where I'm like, hey man, I'm feeling kind of stuck. Because there's always going to be this cycle of analysis by paralysis. And one of the things I think that even post the PGA Show that you and I had to overcome was like, there's never a 100% solution. You have to learn to become okay with a 75%, 80%, whatever it is, and kind of like understand what that means for you and, juxtaposed with your model, but then also look at like what risk does it present, what you're cool with, and then just say, hey, I'm gonna fail, but I know that I won't start unless I start moving. And I remember my friend, his name's Ian, he told me that, and I was like, yeah, I gotta tell Anthony that. It's so simple, and it's one of those like cliches, right?
Yeah.
But it's meaningful, and I think for us, we were like, ding.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was definitely one of the things I was considering. But I mean, you can't succeed. It's a great point. You can't succeed unless you start, right? So, and to Mike's point, you will fail at a lot of things along the way. But I guess my biggest piece of advice would probably be find your identity and stick to it. Really believe in what it is that you're going to be doing, and make sure that there's going to be a lot of distractions along the way and a lot of people that are going to give you their input, right? But I think the most important thing is to make sure you know what the solution is that you're trying to provide for the people that you're trying to provide it for, and stick to that. Make sure that you understand what it is. Everybody around you understands what it is, and you don't what's the word I'm looking for? You don't get away from that vision that you have. I think that's really important for people.
Steadfastness.
Yeah, if you're going to be trying to listen to every single piece of information that everybody's going to give to you, you're going to end up being a dog chasing cars, and you'll never actually get anywhere. So I guess we're kind of saying a pretty similar thing, right? Like if you can't start, then you will never get started. But if you don't know who you want to be, then you also will have no way of knowing how to start.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my
That's great.
my piece of advice.
Yeah, I think if you're constantly living for the approval of people, or if some, voice comes in from left field that's like, are you sure this is a good idea? It's like if that derails you, and now you're like, oh, is it a good idea? How you're like going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you have to have this it's almost like a reckless confidence.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like it's like, you know what, I've committed to this, and to hell or high water, like I'm gonna get through this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see this through. And I think, again, for someone listening that maybe is in that place of indecision or feeling stuck, I just think you never know unless you go, right? I think that is the truth of what you guys are saying is, in order to see what's on the other side, you don't get to climb that mountain and then peak and then climb back down and say, okay, we're good to go, let's go back up. It's like, once you climb, baby, you're going to slide over down, and either you're going to love it over there, or you're going to hate it over there, but like you made the climb. So might as well go and taste that fruit.
Yeah, for sure.
Like one of the things that's crazy about the entrepreneurship journey is you guys have experienced more recently maybe than some is we have this part of the podcast that we call fails of the week. And I think with Instagram and social media, it's so simple to just show the highlights, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, Jackson Golf, they had their big opening day and the facility is perfect. And man, this must have been so easy to just put this thing together. What are some fails? And again, this doesn't have to be this week, but it's like starting a business, right? What are some of those things, whether it's deadlines or it's, equipment installs or whatever it was, like what are some of those things that stand out where you're like, this is kind of it wasn't funny at the time, but this is kind of a funny story to share.
How much time do you guys have? We've had a lot of failures along the way, haven't we? I mean, we none of them were catastrophic by any means, but I think we certainly have had quite a few. Probably my personal favorite, the one that I love to laugh about, is the color scheme that we were going to be using. Did you think about that at all?
So, in somewhat, yeah. Realistically, yeah.
Just to be fair, I did try to wear this to match the color.
Well, I think you look great. You look great. I mean, ass so much. But
You guys are shaved in your bathroom.
Pretty good. That looks great too. Your beard looks fantastic. I was going to bring that up. No, so we originally had this like very bright lime green and like vibrant like middle green color scheme that we were going to be using, and that was not only with the logo, which is kind of stuck a little bit. You can sort of see it in what we're wearing. It's not like it's super offensive on a logo, but every wall in these bays that we're sitting in was going to be a bright lime green, and we had an interior designer come in who was like, nope. And we were just kind of like, oh, okay. Guess you're right. That would look absolutely.
Here's your sunglasses on the way.
all right. True. The best part about that is I remember specifically what month it was, probably October or something like that. You're like, hey, I'm flying over from Sherwin-Williams right now. I got some samples. Let's look at them. And we're in my garage with the lights on, just looking at these swatches, and we're like, sick.
They're holding it up next to the logo, like, hey, which one's going to match the logo? That
Like, this is fantastic. And then we have our ID come in. She's like, what is wrong with you? This is not going to look good, guys. Full disclosure, she's in approval now.
I love it. Yeah. And again, the space looks incredible. She did a great job. So one of the things that I just love that you guys brought that up. I think there's this tendency to not ask for help that I think happens, whether it's like this lone wolf thing, like I'm going to do this on my own. And I'm going to push everybody else down, and I'm going to make it. And I think your guys' posture has very much been a posture of, hey, we're not going to hold too tightly to maybe the tactics of the dream, if that makes sense. Like you've got the dream and you're hanging on to it, But I think like you've invited other people to be a part of the journey, myself and my team included. Why has it been so important for you guys to listen or to heed maybe input from other people? And maybe more importantly, how have you been able to get over your own pride to be able to actually listen to the input of other people? Because I think that's a totally separate podcast where people can be so prideful with their idea. This is my thing, and you will listen to me, and I'm going to gather a bunch of yes men. Yeah, that's not your guys' posture. Why do you think that is?
In the spirit of everything you just said, do you mind if I take this one first? Not trying to be controlling, but I do want to give Mike a huge shout out. I can't give him enough credit. This was a thing that was a problem for us at one point, and it was actually it got to a point where it was a detriment for me, trying to be, this brand, this thing, it being named after my dog, and it being my initial vision that, like, Mike had helped me. Originally, he was kind of helping me navigate through the whole thing. And then finally we were like, well, why don't we just do this together? It makes so much more sense. Like, he was so emotionally invested in my journey that it was like, okay, well, let's just do it together. Right. But we had a very long heart to heart one afternoon. It was a Friday, and we were probably, I would say, close to 8 hours in this conversation where, by the end of it, there were tears, there were hugs, there was laughter, but one of the things that came up was we needed to be able to really, well, I should say I really needed to be able to let go of some of that control. Yeah. And it was not an easy thing for me, especially as a business owner in a totally separate market. It is a very small business there too. This was a really hard thing for me to let go of, having fingers in every aspect of, and having that conversation with Mike, being able to kind of call me out on the carpet for that. Not saying that he was being rude about it by any means, but it was a conversation that needed to be had. And one of the things that we always like to say is that this is just like a marriage. We're in this business together as business partners, and we have to have open communication with each other. We have to have open communication with all of our vendors, with all of our clients. The communication and transparency is the number one thing that's always been something that we've prided ourselves in. And without Mike coming to me and being able to be transparent with me, one of his closest friends, saying like, "Hey man, you got to let go a little bit," it was a really important thing for me to have to hear. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it off to you now and let you take over.
Dang. Well, it's good hearing all that. And I also think that, over the last couple of months, it's, you've done an excellent job.
Appreciate that.
And doing that. And to your point, like we each bring different elements to this game. Right. And I think that we both do a lot of things well. And in some instances, we could use a little bit of help here and there too. And I think that's what makes us such strong partners. It would be folly for us not to want to kind of expand that team. One of the things that I even thought about today, because I knew we were coming to do this, I was like, man, once you start doing something big, once you start putting yourself out there, inevitably you've got people who even like approach you and say, hey, this is a great idea. I want to, at the very least, involve myself in some way, shape, or form. We got guys like Jim, guys like Russ, even you. If we had time, we could tell a story about how, you and I even reconnected. But, you start expanding that team, you start expanding that circle of like trusted voices. And there's that cliche about, you're never the smartest person in the room. And it is true. I like being in a room where the room is smart, where people are supportive, where we can kind of, maybe my Army background, right? Like have, once everybody's kind of on that same vision, like you've got people who overall contribute to the bigger picture and the success of your mission, right? Like, excuse me, our mission becomes Russ's mission. Our mission has become your mission. And strength in numbers. So we're doing it.
You invite people to be a part of the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's incredible. Like this is a cheap example, but it's like Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs, baby. I feel like I got a playoff game this weekend that I got to go win, and they definitely don't want me to come play. but they invite me into the dream. It's like, dude, we're gonna go. You're going to Disney World, baby. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And again, I think you guys have done from day one, from me meeting you guys, it's like it takes a certain humility, and I just want to honor and appreciate you guys both, because I think you've done a great job of you're listening to people, you're inviting feedback from the right voices, right? Not the feedback from some random person where it derails you type of thing, but you're building that circle of trusted advisors, which I think is really beneficial.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
For sure. And the space is immaculate. Again, for those that maybe are just hearing about Jackson's Golf, you guys have a little bit of a unique approach in the fact that it's a members only facility. Talk a little bit about why members only. Just maybe give someone that's listening, maybe is hearing about you guys for the first time, how can someone be a part of this? Where can they sign up and hear about pricing and, all those things? Do you accept walk-ins? Like, some of those kind of basic principles. Would love to just hear a little bit more about Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have the members only. The model was not exactly like a, hey, why don't we just do it like this? It was kind of a progressive decision that we made over several of our Buffalo Wild Wings Tuesday nights. But the more we had thought about it, the more it made a ton of sense, right? Because there are a lot of solutions, and Rochester, we'll just start off by saying this too. Rochester is such a dense market when it comes to golfers that there was no way that this place was going to continue to exist as a city without having a whole bunch of sim bars pop up. And we were going to initially be another one of those sim bars, and we were like, well, we have to have some way to differentiate ourselves, right? Because we also want to offer the best that there is to offer as far as the technology and the products that we're going to have in here. But we want to make it make sense to the people that are also just as golf crazy as us, right? So when I look at what I would want to do, I would want to have access to a driving range all year round, have access to unlimited coaching for both the physical fitness and the swing analytics type stuff. And there really is no facility around here that's like that.
Yeah.
The 24/7 unstaffed model was a little bit later on, but I think we were always kind of, from the beginning of the second inception of Jackson's Golf, I think we were always planning on making it a private club. I don't know exactly where to pinpoint that decision being made that way, but I think it was kind of always our plan.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. I think the only other thing that comes to mind, right, with that is like the sense of ownership, right? Mm-hmm. In a loose sense. If somebody is a member of somewhere, they feel ownership and they feel like they have standing in a community. And there are very, very few feelings or very, very few like things such as validating as being part of a whole of something that you appreciate and that you grow to love, and that, there's a mutual like positive exchange there. So I think, membership community, it becomes more of like a transformational type of setup than just going and paying by the hour somewhere else.
For sure.
Definitely. That's a great point. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. If I walked into Wegmans and saw somebody else wearing a Thomas Media Group sweatshirt, yeah, I would walk up to them and be like, hey, do you know Mike Thomas? I use Mike Thomas. He's our marketing guy. He's the best. There's a community there, right? So I think if somebody walks into Wegmans and sees somebody else wearing a Jackson's Golf shirt, they're going to be like, wait a minute, you're a member at Jackson's too? Oh man, how awesome is that new 2Vision NX system that they got there? Like, there's something there that is proprietary to this place that, a lot of the other public pay by the hour sim bars don't have.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of our goal.
Yeah, we don't want like an in and out type of thing.
No,
right?
We want to make sure that there's a community here. And there is. I mean, we've already seen it. We've only been open for 2 weeks today, actually. We're coming up on our 20th member now, and all of the members now know each other. When they walk in and out, they see each other. They know each other by name, and that's such a cool thing. Probably one of the most rewarding things for me personally is seeing, guys come in and out and, shake each other's hands, smile, and like, we made that connection happen because of this place. Not saying that those people may never have met otherwise, but we were the catalyst for that relationship beginning, and it's just a pretty cool experience for us.
That's a great point. You just reminded me. We were doing a tour. What was it, 2 days ago? Tour a couple of days ago. We had the whole place was booked up, right? And we're doing a tour, and so our prospective members, have eyes on like what our actual members are doing, and like at every stage, like, hey, here's the Putt View Moving Series. Al gets off, hey, I'm Al, and they're introducing themselves to.
Who also had a guest with him, which was even cooler because the guest was involved. The guest of Al, who is one of our members and a really great partner for us to have in this whole thing. Al's guest was excited to share about the Puppy Moving series to the prospective members who were here. So like he was already that hooked by the time he got here that he couldn't wait to tell people about it, which I think is kind of like a common theme for us here. A lot of the people that come through here, the community that we're building, they share this passion about all the stuff that they can use here now. And they were all talking about what their favorite thing is and this thing and what their score was on this. So like, it's just such a cool thing.
It's an obvious statement, but a happy customer is the best salesman that you'll ever have. I think it's very true in any industry. More so than that, I think in Rochester specifically, when something new comes up that is actually awesome. It could be an incredible new restaurant, right, in downtown Rochester, or it could be whatever, a new kids play place that all the moms in the neighborhood are talking about. Oh my gosh, you got to go check out the sale, whatever. When something happens that's new and you feel like you're on the ground floor level, we've talked about this, like a founding member type of idea and whatever else. It's like people actually feel like they're building the business with you instead of watching some random business pop up. And to your point of the Wegmans example, it's like, dude, that's not just a Wegman, that's not just a Jackson's Golf hoodie, but I'm helping build Jackson's Golf. Like I'm proud to be a member of Jackson's Golf, right? I just think you guys have done such a great job in such a short time of already developing these members. Again, if you're watching this or listening, I cannot encourage you enough to at least just book a tour and just come check out the space. Because I think whether you've got a spouse or a dad or a golf obsessed, family member or friend, I love Rochester, but it snows a lot. There's snow outside right now. It's 12 degrees today, the day of the recording.
We've changed our shoes 5 times already.
It's beautiful in here. And again, you could play many of the golf courses and, just really, really special environment that you guys have created. And I love the point that you made about you're creating an environment where relationships can thrive. And I think that there's churches that do that and workout facilities that do that and all sorts of beautiful communities that do that. And you're making our city better for opening this space up. So I appreciate you guys personally. I hope that this podcast at least gets me a free round of 18 or something just for the time. But we have a couple more questions before we conclude. Again, there's so much that I want to ask you guys both individually because I respect and honor and appreciate your guys' story. But I do have to know, you guys are both married men, you got kiddos. In the process of building this out, have you guys ever told your wives, look, I gotta stay late. We're doing some really intense planning, and you're just playing on the or you're just hitting the ball.
I think if we go that direction,
We can reap this out. Just
I'm in for Washington.
I don't know the truth.
Gosh.
The truth is yes. The truth is there's been a lot of maintenance days that have required us to stay a little late. That have turned into a couple rounds of 18.
I don't want to be here.
There is something about this that I have to get better at that I can't explain to you because you just won't understand.
Yeah. Hey, no. I have to really learn how to use these systems if I'm ever going to explain them to a member. That's a good one.
That was yes. You have used that before.
I wonder how much longer we can use that one.
It's not. We're not lying. We do have to understand the systems, and we have to learn about all the ins and outs.
I mean, that's a good point, though, right? So we find ourselves here, and I mean, I came here after the gym the other day. I'm like, I'm gonna hit a couple of drives, just dial it in.
Yeah.
And I was here for I broke my own rule of being here for only the duration of my reservation. Look up and when, all right, nobody's here. Okay, I got a couple more drives. It gets addicting, right? It's an absolute blast. So yeah, needless to say, your answer to your question is yes.
Yeah, I think the day the putt view was installed,
You were here the whole day.
I think I was here we started at 8 a.m., right? I think it was either 8 or 9 a.m. And I was here till after midnight, just like, I couldn't get you.
That was the best.
You needed a whole crew of people with ropes to pull me up.
It's like, if you've ever been to a casino with someone that's just a real gambler, that's kind of how I felt seeing you on the puppy then. Like you were just really You were drooling, but it was,
I could have been. There's
I
probably
mean, Shirley's out on the pub view. I mean,
no, I stepped off.
we don't want to drool up the puppy.
But yeah, that is, and again, we could talk about so much of the actual equipment you guys have, but again, some of this equipment is like the only, like that puppy is like the only one in what, the U.S. or the Northeast or whatever it is.
It was, I don't know if there's been any more since, but it was, when did we install it? November? Early November?
Yeah, early November. Yeah, it was the second consumer installation of that particular unit in the world. I'm sorry, in the country, and then the first commercial application. This one, the bay that we're sitting in, is actually the first consumer installation of this 2Vision NX system in the world, which is, I don't know, it's just such a cool thing to be able to say. There's this little tiny hole, Webster, New York based indoor golf riding facility that has two of the most like exclusive pieces of equipment that you can use, both entertainment wise and game improvement wise. And somehow it ended up in our hands.
Well, to your earlier point, right? The importance of knowing your vision and knowing what your identity is. That is also kind of what drove the decision to purposely seek out the moving series, to purposely seek out the NX. It's like, if our vision is to deliver the most premier indoor experience in the area, like that's what drives some of those decisions.
And I think it's a huge compliment from those two companies too. GolfZone and PuttView are they're mammoth companies in the golf industry, in the indoor space especially. And we had a chance to pitch them our idea and our vision for this thing. And they were enough on board with it that without having any evidence that it was going to work or that it has already been proven, they bought in and allowed us to be, some of the pioneers of these new pieces of equipment that they launched. And it's a huge compliment to us. And, we're obviously super grateful for the partnerships that we've developed along the road here. It's been awesome. Yeah.
And again, I think it speaks volumes that not only do you have the great equipment, but you have the community that actually keeps people here and people actually want to come back for it. Equipment is great. This stuff can be installed anywhere. It isn't, but it could be.
Yeah.
But what's the real differentiator is someone like Al jumping off the putt view, talking, couldn't agree more, biting over here. I think another one of the things that are going to continue to differentiate you guys. You've done a great job. Last question before we jump into hot seats. Where do you see Jackson's Golf in 10 years from today? Honestly, we're in beta Genesis year 1 right now. 10 years from now, what do you guys think?
I think certainly we envision a lot more locations than just this one. I mean, we've already been kind of in conversations about location 2 already, where we were going to potentially be putting location 2. But 10 years, I don't know, that's a long ways down the road. What do you think?
It's a good question. I don't know if our roadmap is that far out. Just
No, you have to answer.
yeah. I'm thinking probably 36 months out. But to your point, Anthony, more locations. But there's this dichotomy that you have to address between, like, we want to be a club, and with club there's an element of, for lack of a better phrase, exclusivity, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't then turn that around and franchise it out. And, next thing you know, we've got 200, locations around the world. We have to make sure that, with our next iteration of Jackson's Golf, it's going to be in the Rochester area, that we still maintain the identity that we're moving forward with right now. So I don't want to say that in 10 years we're going to have, a monopoly in indoor golf. That's not even our goal. I think, with our model and kind of what we're bringing to the table here, we can find that happy medium. So I'd like to say in 5 years. So we're going beyond the 36 months that that we're kind of, we meet in the middle. Several facilities, and our focus is predominantly at this juncture on Western New York.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably branching a little bit into Central New york and maybe Southern Tier too, but I think it would be cool to have, we'll 7.5 years, final offer. We'll go with 7.5 locations. One location per year. I think that would be a pretty cool thing. Maybe not averaging that, but or maybe averaging that, but not actually, doing one per year. But I think it would be pretty cool for us to kind of spread out a little bit wider. But to Mike's point, we really want to make sure we're maintaining what our identity is, and our identity is exclusivity, and we're not going to abandon that just because there's a couple dollar bills that are going to float around in front of our eyes. Like, we really want to make sure that this product is going to stay exactly what it is right now. We've had a really overwhelmingly positive response, and we're not going to vary from that just because we think that there's more money to be made. Our passion is in our product. It's not in what the product is going to provide for us. Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, listen, maybe in 5 years from now, Josh Allen's a member here. He brings the Super Bowl trophy here and lets it stay here for a little bit.
Maybe we'll open one inside the stadium.
What? How would I counter with maybe 4-ish months from now?
Great question. Josh, if you're listening,
Listen, actually, do a quick shout out with the trading can. Get them a 20-second pitch right now to the camera of why they should check out Jackson's Golf.
go for it.
Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, massive Bills fans here, right, Anthony?
That's
Massive
true.
Bills fan, just like me. Josh Allen, if you're listening, big number 17 fan,
17 was actually my number in all sports growing up. So do you what? I passed that off to you.
Exactly,
I've
right?
gone longer than 20 seconds, but we're going to keep it going.
Is that good? Big Bills fans, right? Big fans of the number 17.
You also went to Fisher, where Josh happens to be staying.
There you go. Forgot about that.
No, one of the cool things, though, too, on a serious note, if it was something that we were going to try and get them to try and, come to, I think one of the cool things about this is that it is a little bit of a hole in the wall. I mean, it's obviously, most people will understand, and I think not that we can relate, but I think we would all understand that their need for a little bit of privacy at the end of at a huge event like a training camp. They don't want to be going to a big restaurant around here and having a couple hundred people interrupting their dinner all night long. I mean, they could come in here and they could have 4 people per bay and shut both barn doors and nobody would know who was in here. So they would have a very private experience that was very laid back, a ton of fun for them, and a good way to start off the next season.
Yeah, perfect. And even on like a very serious note, so Evento has held, well, I guess the Bills and like the Ryan Callahan Foundation, athlete associated foundations have held charity events over at Evento. Same landlord. We've partnered with, not partnered, but had that beginning discussion with Evento about doing charity events of our own here. And if the Bills are ever in town,
Love it.
there you go.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know Jenna Welsh, who was actually on the podcast. Oh, who runs Evento or something.
That's awesome.
How about that?
There you go.
Rapid fire hot seat questions. You guys ready?
Out of that.
These are quick hitter questions. I want no longer than I'm talking 10, 15-second responses. This
Okay, thanks.
So you guys,
It take me 13 seconds to think.
I know. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm sure at this. Okay.
here we go.
Let's do it.
What is your favorite golf course to play on the simulators?
On the sim, there is one hilariously difficult course called Champions Island. I played it because I thought it was going to be like Augusta has like a very, they're very exclusive with, I know, I'm sorry. Anyway, they don't allow a lot of people to use their course on simulators, so I thought maybe it was like an Augusta replica course, and it's not. It's just
like an island.
one of the most comically difficult things in the world. I've often said that I don't think a tour pro could break 90 on that course. So
Wow.
that's my favorite.
Mike, you can take question number 2. Who's the better golfer between the two of you?
All right, Tommy. Ready? Anthony.
It was disappointing and nice job. I guess, here we go. Question number 3. What's the funniest moment that you guys have had while running Jackson's Golf?
Maybe there's a lot.
There's a lot. I would say that probably in our Tuesday meetings, just some of the ridiculous names for our aliases that we've come up with for no reason really at all, but just, I don't know, you laugh at like Frodo Jackson, Frodo Smith.
Or how about the fact that for the first few weeks of us beginning this, people thought your name was Anthony Jackson.
Everybody called me. Everybody thought they were introducing me to people as Anthony Jackson, which was just
Or that my email address is Michael@Jackson. It's called just
Michael Jackson's Golf. Yeah, that's
just some things we didn't think through.
Incredible.
some fun stuff.
What if you guys played I'm Sorry, Miss Jackson? Ooh, what if you guys played that every time?
We could.
Wow. We did it. That was really nice. What you just did there. Thank you.
Mine was actually like good idea, but it started to time well with all the fat west. Let's try that again.
Unplanned. All right, here we go. This is called rapid fire. Here we go. What's your go-to snack or drink during a long round of golf?
I love a June Shine. That's got to be my favorite drink.
Wonderful.
Snack. I love. I gotta say chips. I guess. I don't know. Siete chips, the queso, pedal coat chips. They're
Siete.
absolutely great.
Yeah, jerky for me, snack-wise. Big call. Crush a lot of dehydrated meat.
All right, final question of the hot seats. This you both can answer this. If you could play golf with any pro, past or present, who would it be?
I mean, the obvious one is going to be Tiger, right? But there's a lot of guys from the other generation I think would. If I had to pick one from each, I would probably say Gary Player because I think that dude's hilarious. Maybe John Daly, for sure. Tiger Woods, because for obvious reasons. And then as far as like a current generation player, I don't know. I guess either JT or Jordan, just because they're so vocal when they're out there. I think that'd be kind of fun to listen to them tell me how bad. Actually, no, I take that back. Max Homa, because I want him to tell me how bad I am.
Love it.
I think he's funny.
Got a good personality. I want to take it in a different direction, and just say not a pro, but my Grandpa Henry.
Oh,
So
don't do this.
I have to. And there's going to be a picture of him going up on the wall in here eventually, right? Picture of him golfing at Pinehurst back in like early 90s. So he was an avid golfer the entire time I knew him. Guy was a World War II vet. Came home and was like, you know what? I'm going to crush Kodak for 34 years. And I'm going to golf for the rest of my life. And he ended up winning local tournaments. I think he did pretty well down in Pinehurst as well. But just, going back and like looking through some photos and seeing that guy, like his fundamentals are crisp. Number one, looks amazing. Like World War II style hair flow. Looks great. And it's like, man, I golfed one time with him, I think, when I was like 12 years old at Azalea Sands in South Carolina outside Myrtle Beach. And I was absolute garbage. And it's like going back now, if I can do it. And he'd be like, Michael, you're not so bad after all. Or, it would just be a good time and like an opportunity to share it when I was taking it more seriously. So that's where I think about oftentimes, actually. It's an awesome answer.
I love it. And no disrespect to your answer. Your answer was great as well. But I think, isn't that the beautiful summary of golf? We can all be entertained by it and learn and grow in our craft. But the real memories that you guys are going to help cultivate are going to be those with families, businesses having maybe events here one day, or, members being able to invite guests. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where memories are made. And you guys are doing such an incredible job. Honored to help get the story out of all you guys are doing. I can't wait when we air this to even see how many more members are being added, and really appreciate you guys. You guys are, again, you've invited us into the journey, which we are really, really grateful to be a part of this. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of In Good Company, where we believe that the best parts of business happen in good company. And we'll see you next time.